Hello, and thanks for being with us on the New Life Show with Dr. Michael Laitman. Hello, Dr. Laitman. Hello, everyone. Hello, Yael Shadarel. Hello. And today we'd like to talk to Dr. Laitman about love between spouses, love in relationships. We're familiar with different kinds of love, but the most special kind is love between spouses. Let's see, how can it make our life better? Be with us, Yael, please. Yeah, since always, we used it in all possible kinds of media, literature, theater, TV. Love between spouses is something truly important in our culture. It has a very central place in a person's life, and in the life of a modern person, even more. If in the past a relationship had nothing to do with love, it was a kind of partnership in order to survive, in order to coexist. Today, no more. Love is the thing. If there's love, we can stay together. There's no love, each goes his own way. But there's something about love between spouses that is becoming more and more important in our life, in a person's very basic desire for happiness. Today, it's truly a key for a person's happiness. Everyone's looking for the love, for it to live inside us. And I'd like to ask, how is it that love in relationships between spouses became so significant in a modern person's life and became one of the key factors for a person's happiness? The thing is that our ego, our desire to receive pleasure, our desire to feel life is developing all the time. And it's developing more and more from generation to generation. And if in the past, or the way it is with animals, they feel a certain attitude towards each other only according to survival needs or in order to continue the generation. So they meet for a period of time. We see it with different kinds of animals, and this is how they realize the laws of nature that brings them closer together and that forces them to be together in order to realize some kind of an instinctive connection that's obligated by the laws of nature. This is also how it was with people for thousands of generations. But bit by bit, from generation to generation, a desire to receive pleasure grows in man, not to simply sustain himself, like the still, the vegetative, and the animate, not just for food, sex, and family, but also for money, control, honor, knowledge, culture. And here man starts developing far beyond the animate level, far beyond animals. And the desires to receive pleasure from life start developing in him. In animals, it's the desire to sustain life. And in man, it becomes the desire to receive pleasure from life. Were we to look at people that lived, simple people that lived off their piece of land, that they have a piece of land of their own, they have what they need there, their domestic animals and a small home, and so that person knows that he gets married to someone that's like him and builds a home of his own, and he gets help in building it, and that's how he lives his life. And that's how it was from generation to generation. But as the will to receive started growing more, and we no longer want a small house, but a bigger one, and also there are different professions for which we have to travel to some other village in order to study, or some faraway university, where there are special positions, not only things that have to do with my small piece of land. So as mankind started developing, it also truly influenced family life. I start demanding more. It becomes more important to me. How do I look? How does she look in the eyes of everyone? Our ego grows more and more from generation to generation, and this is the entire engine, the source of all of our changes. But still, you could always see an example of how to choose from kings. Meaning a king. He doesn't choose a wife for himself, that he travels around the world and chooses where is the one that's the most. No. He knows that the best thing could be the daughter of the neighboring king. And maybe she's not that great, but according to the hierarchy, this is how you choose, that you're on the same levels, so to speak. And so here we're already in a special state. And it's possible to say, and it's very interesting, when do we choose a spouse according to what we think, according to what we want? I don't think that someone does that at all. I watched movies. I read novels. I'm talking about a contemporary person off the street. I hear and see how people look at it. What do they think about it? I don't want her because she's a redhead, and she's too chubby, she's too thin, and she's not smart enough, and this, and that. And then he and she and she and he, and so in short, we have no education for how to build a correct relationship between spouses. It's not that I grow up, go through life, and every time I form an image inside of me that I think that this is who I want to live with. That, first of all, if we're talking about internality, a person's character, worldview, inclinations, habits, and so on and so forth, that also has to do where did she grow up, who are her parents, what does she want, profession, something, everything's important. Her worldview, how she sees raising children, and so on. We don't really examine these things. Better put, it's not that we don't examine them, but we don't prepare our children to already have this kind of point of view from childhood that will advance more and more in terms of how to choose the right spouse. And therefore, the correct relationship as a key to a person's happiness, that this is what you asked about. I disagree that we have the key for it altogether. We don't. And therefore, if we ask people, are you happy in your relationship with all the different problems that you get from society and you bring from work and so on and so forth? That it influences the relationship itself, but that's not the main thing. So I don't think that there are many people that could say that, yes, I'm happy, that yes, I'm with the right spouse. Meaning that what we have here is a lack of preparation. You're actually talking about relationships, which is something that's really confused and something very not simple, especially in our generation. But I want to put relationships aside for a moment and ask only about love and relationships. That yearning for love in a relationship, whether I will or won't realize it later on, only about the love itself as something very basic, that if a person had one relationship and another, and he doesn't want to get married, but still, he always wants love in a relationship. I don't know if there still is such a thing. I think that it's quite some time now that people aren't thinking about it. Of course, it does exist, but it's not that they're looking for it. Look, for this too, we have to teach people. We have to educate them. For them to know what kind of love could there be. Love, the way I remember what my teacher said, is that love is like a pet, a domestic pet, that you have to raise it together, to all the time take care of it, raise it, invest in it, meaning it doesn't exist to begin with, but we have to turn to it with the assumption that there is no love. And it can be only to the extent to which we make mutual concessions. Make mutual concessions. Correspondingly, we can examine our love, measure it, to the extent to which I want to concede from myself, to annul myself towards my spouse. And my spouse also does the same towards me, but it's not obligatory. And then, out of both of these concessions, or at least a one-sided concession, out of that I build love. The connection that will then be only in return for my concession will be called love. It's not the kind of love where I love her hair and hands and feet and so on, God forbid. It's not a love that she knows how to cook, and it's not a kind of love where we have certain inclinations, that we like the same things. But love, to begin with, it doesn't exist because everyone loves themselves. Everyone's inside their own ego and self-love. And to the extent to which I, from the 100% of my ego that this is how I am, I'm willing to concede and give her a part of my ego for her to be there, suppose, that means that to that extent I make room for love. Meaning to the extent to which I concede myself, I annul myself, to that extent, love can exist. And then, imagine how much education, correct education and preparation we need for it. So that a couple, that this is how they connect, and that they reach, suppose a young couple, and that they reach a state where they will know how to start working this way between them. Meaning, it's really spiritual work above one's corporeal thoughts and feelings. It's the opposite of a person's own character, habits, the opposite of a person's will to receive pleasure, but to really act to the benefit of the other. In the meantime, it's the other. And to feel the other as your spouse to the extent to which you have opened and made room for them in your heart. Meaning, to the extent to which I, in my big, closed, egoistic heart, made room for her to be there, and in this area in the heart, I care only for her and not for myself at all. So this feeling inside my heart that there's someone else there, not me, this feeling is called love. Therefore, it's called love covers for all crimes, because, first of all, I had self-love there, which is called a crime. And now I made room there. Instead of thinking about myself, feeling myself, caring for myself, I made room there for the other, for my spouse, for example. And then caring for her, this is called love. It's not some kind of emotions or something, crying, pathos and so on. No, we're not talking about that. We're talking about measurable things, so much so. What does it mean to make room in my heart? That my heart is called a place of self-concern, where I care for myself, that this is the natural state for everyone. How do I clear my heart, make room there for another person to come in, another personality with her character that suppose I can't stand, and habits and things, everything there is, doesn't matter what. I really allow my heart to divide into two, for me and for her. And I can even feel it in my heart. Where am I with myself and where she is in and of herself, but in my heart. You really feel that as two different areas? Yes. Feel it. It's really felt, in short. Okay, I want to focus on that area that I have cleared for my spouse. This area, when I start clearing it, I have to clear it and to put something into that vacant space. Yeah, otherwise, why are you clearing it? So what do I clear it of and what do I bring in? You clear it of self-concern. And what do I bring in? You bring her in, concern for her, care for her. There's this saying that says that there are always three partners in love between spouses, me, you, and we, meaning that there's this mutual area where, how do you see this? Because you don't talk about some collective common area. It's very hard to explain. I don't think that it's that easy. And therefore, in the meantime, I'd settle for that. Okay, just a moment going back to what you said. You said that caring for your spouse, caring for someone who's not me, is what generates love. So love is a result of starting to care, making room in my heart for someone else, and starting to care for the other person, for example. And then, as a result of this, and as a result of starting to care for someone else, what's generated is love. We call it love. You can call it care. But I want to ask specifically about love. Love is something higher. What is love? You know, when a husband says, he tells his wife, I know that you don't love me. What do you mean? Why not? Were she to love me, she wouldn't have married me. I don't understand the twist. What does he want to say? That actually you are a big egoist of bad character, and were you to love me, then you'd have mercy on me and wouldn't marry me. Why? It's so hard to understand what I just said. Yeah, I don't understand. She got married to him, but she has a very hard character and she's pressuring and everything. You'd have mercy on me and you wouldn't marry me. Okay. It's not simple. So what's so important there in this thing that you're saying? What's the message? The message is that if you're a hard woman and you love someone, you're saying, I don't want to be next to him so that he won't suffer from me. Otherwise, you love yourself. This way, you're relating to him. You say, I love him, I'll leave him alone. I won't marry him so that he'll be well off in life, because with the character that I have, he'll suffer. Okay, this is clear. Now, I want to go back to what I asked. We're making room in that place where we think only about ourselves, and I start thinking about my spouse. And you said that love is a result of that, and it's something higher. So I want to understand, love, it's a result of the work that I do on myself in relation to another person. So it means that I can develop love toward any person according to this model, any spouse, not necessarily he or she or whoever it is. Love does not depend on the physiological connection. Love is an attitude, a relation from my heart that instead of treating myself in the most favorable way, because this is how I am, this is how I'm built, then I try in the same way, or at least to some extent, to relate to someone else. That means that I love them. I exchange self-love for loving someone else. It could be love for a dog, for a person, for music, for anything. Okay, and still, I want to ask, what's special about love in a relationship? Love for a spouse. I can love a child, a dog, a parent. I can love a friend. I can love my business partner. I can love many people, but from all of these different types of relationships that a person has, there is something special about the relationship between spouses. Why is that something special? Because I commit to connecting to that person in such a way where I make room for them in my heart. And I commit to caring for that person the way I care for myself. And in my heart, then there's already a place where all the time, I care for that person. That it can't be that my heart, my desire, that I'll feel myself whole unless I fulfill my care for that person, that I did everything for that person to feel good, just like I think about myself all the time, for me to feel good. And it has nothing to do with sex. And it has nothing to do with man and woman. But it's the matter of love in general. You're saying that in every kind of love, there's this or these components, that I have to make room in my heart, that I have to care for the other the way I care for myself, and there's this kind of feeling of completeness as a result of the connection between us, this common love. This is something else. I didn't talk about the connection between the two. Okay, the connection between the two, that's already a higher degree. Okay, so going back to what you said, this is unique only for a relationship between spouses, or it's about love in general? I told you, it doesn't matter. So what's special about love and relationships? Why is it so important for us in life and not other kinds of love? What's the big deal? Here we really have to reach the so-called middle line. That we have to reach a state where half of my heart and the other half of my heart that's taken up by my spouse, suppose, I connect the two now as two hearts. Which means what? That it's impossible if we connect without the superior, upper spiritual goal. As it says, man and woman, divinity is between them. And only this way we can reach mutual completion for it to truly be a family. Otherwise, we can't. And in every other kind of love, there's no divinity between them. No, I love my dog. My dog passes away. I'm in mourning. You know how people connect to their pets. Okay, so let's take another relationship, not between spouses. In my love for my neighbor, for my dog, for music, for whatever. No. You call it love? Okay, so be it. It's like loving a dog, loving your neighbor, loving music, doesn't matter what. Right. This is not being in a relationship. This is not being a couple. Being a couple means that both of us become one. This can only be if above us we have a common spiritual goal and we want to reach it. And then we begin a special kind of connection between us in the heart of the one and in the heart of the other. We start connecting. She in her heart with me, and I in my heart with her. We start connecting. And what connects the hearts? That I do something in my heart that doesn't do anything, neither if she does it. But what connects the hearts is the third upper force. And who is that upper force? The upper force. And therefore it says man and woman, divinity between them. Only that can connect the both of us together. And this is spiritual action. Otherwise, it's impossible. Because up until now, each of us was an egoist, like with your dog, that I make room in my heart for the other. But if we're really talking about spouses, this is something else. This is the middle line. This is the third thing. This is something that we have to work on, and for this we need the help of the spiritual force. Dr. Laitman, unfortunately our time is up. We have many more questions. So till our next show, thank you very much. Thank you, Yael. Thank you for being with us. Until next time, all the best.